Again, I'm the Vice President of School and Community Partnerships here at Sinclair, and I have this distinct honor to work side by side with many of you here today in the audience. And so on behalf of President Stephen Johnson and the Sinclair Board of Trustees, I want to thank you all for the work that you do to support the children and families in our community. A society's treatment of its children, I believe, is a witness either for or against it. Judgment cannot be escaped. The data in the Know the Gap, Close the Gap report is an indictment against us all. I am frustrated, disappointed, and ashamed by what we have not yet been able to accomplish on behalf of our children. We have met the enemy and he is us, said Pogo, the cartoon character. Truer words were never spoken. Change needs a new face in our region, some of that Michael Jackson man in the mirror kind of change. The need couldn't be more urgent. The time is now, and the work is ours. Those of us in positions of power, authority, and influence need to lean in, dig deep, and help this community leap forward. In order to fix what needs to be fixing, and it is not our children, we must identify and name the problem, not waste time and energy blaming and shaming one another. Implicit bias is real and is a reminder for us all that indeed race still matters. The color of our skin matters. The young lady here earlier today, the student, said, we're reading about civil rights in the history books. It's over. We're talking about all the isms. It still matters today. And so I didn't get a lot of sleep last night. I had a crazy trip to Columbus earlier this week, and I got out of a meeting at 6 o'clock in the evening. I went to get my car out of a parking garage that I'm not used to using. And when I got out of my meeting, I didn't carry a coat that day. My dad, he was in my head, like you never leave house without a coat kind of thing. And so I find myself walking down Front Street or, one of the streets downtown with no coat. The wind was whipping between the buildings, and I was on my way to the parking garage, forgot I needed to pay cash, so I had to walk around the block to get money out of the ATM, walked all the way back to the parking garage. It was dark, it was in an alley, and it was closed. So my laptop was in the car, my keys were in the car, I don't have a coat. Okay, what am I gonna do? I'm gonna stay at the DoubleTree overnight. Couldn't afford $209 a night. Room service was $60, so I'm taking donations, to help me out on that. But I stayed in the hotel and, called my parents and made arrangements for my children. And had a funeral the next day here in Dayton, so got up at 7 in the morning. Okay, the garage would be open. Got there, the young man said, oh, I was here. No, you were not. I can tell you were not here. So we kind of went through that, and I was irritated. And so as I was leaving the garage, I was kind of looking, there was a placard on the wall, like contact information, phone number kind of stuff, because I was like, I'm going to call, and I'm going to report him to his supervisor, and I'm going to be reimbursed. And I was doing that, and as I was exiting the garage, it exits into an alley, but there's a sidewalk there, and the sidewalk goes right into the Rife Center. So I was there with Senator Liner. She said, yep, I was there with Senator Liner. She can attest I was there. So, yeah, we could share the room. So as I was looking, I didn't notice I was creeping into the alley, right? I'm creeping into the sidewalk. And so when I do finally look and I say, forget this, it's not worth it. I said, the young man, who knows what the situation was? I'm just going to, I chalk it up as a loss. And then I stopped and I looked, and there was a woman standing here, and she was kind of giving me like, what are you doing? And I rolled down my window. I said, I'm so sorry. I was looking at this thing. I wasn't paying attention. I'm sorry, that I came into your pathway. You almost hit me. I said, I'm sorry. I really just didn't see you. Well, I'm trying to get to work. And she was irritated, and I was like, okay, I'm sorry again. I really didn't see you. And then, she kind of starts throwing out the expletives, and then she did something that just shook me to my core. She called me a nigger. And I didn't say the N-word here because it just makes it sound real smooth and soft around the edges, and that's not how it hit me. And she didn't whisper it under her breath. She wasn't ashamed about it. She kind of said it with this fiery boldness, like, yeah, I can say that, and that's who you are, and that's what you are. And just that quick, right? I was reminded that in spite of everything I've accomplished in my life, I have a doctorate degree from the University of Texas at Austin. I have my MBA from the University of Dayton. I graduated. I'm a proud graduate of a historically black college and university in Nashville, Tennessee. Pay my taxes, never been to jail. I take care of my children. My dad always, I don't know what's like in everybody's homes, but in the black homes that I know, what was always drilled in me is you have to be twice as good as them. And the white faces in the room, you're the them, right? You have to be twice as good. Whatever the minimum requirements are for education, you got to do more. So when I saw the father in the video saying that still happens today, that's what we tell our children. You have to be more. However they dress, you can't dress like that. If she wears a short skirt and it's low cut, don't think you can wear that because you're not going to get that job. She can do that. You can't. So there's this narrative in our head about what we can do and what you can do and what we can't do and what the limits are. And I thought I did everything right? I work here at Sinclair. I get to report directly to the president, and he's a brilliant man, and I get to learn and absorb all this stuff, and still, I'm just a nigger, right? And so I contemplated whether or not I would give this message. I stayed up all night. I called my dad and my mom, and I said, this is really, and it's all about politically correct, right? Because we're in Dayton, and as much as we celebrate community and diversity, I still see us and I feel us as a really black and white kind of town. That's my experience. And so it's, do you want to say that? And I said, I believe everything. I believe the universe, everything happens for a reason. And if me sharing this story kind of sticks with you in some way so that, again, it will elevate the voices of our children and what their experiences are and reminds us of all the work that we have to do, then that experience was worth it for me. So as the mother of a bright 9-year-old light named Avery, whom I call Tutu, and my own little nut-colored Captain Curious named Austin, who is 7, whom we all affectionately refer to as Big Guy, my mind is consumed with concern, and my spirit is filled with angst when I sometimes consider what might happen to Austin in the classroom. When I think about it, when it comes to me at a stoplight or at 4 o'clock in the morning, I'm 5'10", my husband's 6'6", so Austin's going to be one of those big black boys, right, that we just heard about. What if his teacher holds the same views as that woman who I ran into in Columbus? How is that going to affect Austin? What if the teacher doesn't call on Austin when he raises his hand in classroom? Will she ignore him? Will Austin have the chance to ever see a black man as a teacher and a role model in the classroom? And if he doesn't, how is that going to affect his psyche and the narrative that he plays over and over in his head? Will he be too energetic one day in the classroom, and will that energy be seen as belligerence? When he struggles to express himself and becomes agitated, will his teacher respond appropriately? Will she be fair and equitable in her admonishments and her rewards? Will Austin ever be able to hear about the successes and accomplishments of African Americans outside the month of February? When will I need to have the talk with him to advise him on specifically how he should behave if he ever comes into contact with a police officer? The rules are different for him, and I will need to be able to find the right words to explain why. How will I explain the why to my son? So many people who interact with African American boys like Austin hold lower expectations of them because they are black. That is, they are summarily judged by the color of their skin and not the content of their character. From the start, before they arrive at the race, before they even pop out of the oven, they are up against it, implicit bias. I am better equipped to manage it because I'm an adult, but I'm full of questions. What about some of our most vulnerable children? Who will protect them? What are the implications for us as leaders, influencers, and decision makers? What role is implicit bias playing in the decisions that we are making now about the future of our community? What do we need to do? Within ourselves, let us acknowledge and help raise awareness that race matters when trying to create equitable opportunities for our children. No more being colorblind. Let us stop shadowboxing with an imaginary opponent and shine the light on the real issue of implicit bias, and then act accordingly as board members of organizations, at our companies, for example, when granting internships, at our schools when creating intervention programs. As leaders of organizations that serve students and children, let us ensure that equity is part of the culture by regularly, routinely, and publicly evaluating and sharing disaggregated performance data. Within our respective communities, at work and at home, we must model the way. We must model the way. Step outside of our comfort zones and seek to develop meaningful, ongoing relationships with individuals who don't look like us. Getting to know individuals as individuals will help us to stop making these broad generalizations and assumptions about an entire group of people. Within our classrooms, the new key to the kingdom must be culturally responsive teaching practices. We need to invest in our teachers and make sure that they have the tools in their toolboxes to deliver culturally responsive curriculum. Many of us who work with students of color will need to critically reflect on whether the way we currently do things is in fact the best way to do things. Life evolves, and teaching must evolve with life. Within our schools, hope must be the magic carpet, hovering at every child's feet, awaiting to be stepped on. That occurs when we validate the reality of our children's lives. Such validation starts with acknowledging the inequities that now exist and better understanding the underlying causes of those inequities. In Dayton, let us now make a collective commitment to make something happen that clearly demonstrates that we are all in and completely committed to doing more than just talking about equitable learning outcomes for students. In a world of no guarantees, more than ever, education is the skeleton key, a key designed to fit many locks that can open doors to personal empowerment and economic self-sufficiency. Students and families expect us to make decisions that benefit them and help prepare them for today and the future. We must accept the fact that we are human, so we all have biases, and even the most kind-hearted and well-meaning among us can unknowingly perpetuate its harmful effects. It has nothing to do with how nice of a person you are, and everything to do with how our brains divide the social world into groups, in groups and out groups. The good thing is, we have the power to change course. We can stem the tide, we can close the gap, and pay back the education debt that Gloria Ladson-Billings refers to by taking responsibility for ensuring that we deliver to current and future generations of young people, all young people, regardless of the color of their skin, high-quality educational learning experiences that enable them to lead fulfilling lives. We can take steps now to position our community to leap forward. This work is not easy, and the road is less traveled, but together we can lean in and make progress. This is our data. We must own it and endeavor to change it. These are our children. We must care for their well-being. The need couldn't be more urgent. The time is now, and the work is ours. Thank you.